Hey everyone, this is Kiki Tobar, and you're listening to Kashmir Talk, your number one podcast for entrepreneurs, small business owners, and growth mindset individuals. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Kashmir Talk. I am your host, Kiki Tobar, and this is Kashmir Talk, and we have someone so special here today. She is my number one assistant, my true helper and friend, and I honestly couldn't do it without her. This is Elia. Welcome to the show, Elia.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, we're excited to have you. So you guys, Elia, she's the behind the scenes bitch. She does a lot of the shit that helps us get through the day. Like, honestly, when I say superhero, she's the one. So I know I'm talking her up a lot, but what we do inside of the salon, we require so much help. We really, we can do it on our own, but we wouldn't produce the high quality work that we do if we didn't have people helping us. So Elia, if you will, is almost like our intern. She is not just the assistant. I actually don't like referring to her as the assistant. She's our intern, and she's the one who's almost like my understudy and the girls' understudies. And she's going to be one of the full-time Kashmir team members in the future. So she's going to be taking her own clients very soon and kind of just doing that whole thing. So she's already doing case studies. She's already working on Kashmir guests and doing the whole shebang. So we're just like mentoring her right now and bringing her up to the up and up. And she's been with us for about how long? When did you start? Which month was it? Oh yeah, it was New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I literally started on New Year's Eve with you.
Yeah, and it was just, Emily wasn't here, right? She was on vacation. And so I was like, I need help. Do you want to do a trial? So the way that we do hiring, I want to talk about a little bit because it's something that Elia actually mentioned to me was something that she really appreciated when she was hired here. And I like to keep my systems and processes very strict. You know, I always like to talk about this. I like true boundaries, but I also like setting myself up for success. And one of the things that I do instead of hiring really sets up Kashmir and protects the girls and my team members for a really safe work environment and a healthy work environment so that we don't have people swinging the door in and out all the time. We vet people, you know, like we really vet people, and we also give people the opportunity to vet us. So it's not just a interview for me to interview you. I think I opened up that conversation and framed it intentionally with the purpose of helping Elia understand, like, it might not be a good fit for you to work here. And I think inside of hiring teams, that is something that we as small business owners necessarily don't do a lot, and we need to do more of. When you are on your own, it's fine, but you're going to get to the point where you're going to start hiring people. And I'm just going to save you like a couple of decades of grief and trials of just learning how to vet the type of people that you want inside of your space. So I wouldn't say that we hire and fire very often here, but the people that we do keep are pretty solid. And that's inside of the process and how we do things. So, you know, I can always tell if somebody really wants to work at the salon and they really want to work at the business because they do the things that are required inside of getting an opportunity to work here. So we have an application process where it has a lot of quirky little questions and
does.
What were some of the quirky questions that you got? Where you were
what are my Spotify stations?
Oh, yeah.
Like my top 3. What's my go-to coffee order? So outside of like the norm questions that you would get, there were questions sprinkled in the application to get to know me a little bit.
Yeah, because like you are a person.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to know that. I want to know who you are. I want to know your quirks. I want to know, because that's the biggest thing that I made a mistake in, was just hiring people for help and not hiring people for who they are. And I think I found down the line, everybody has these amazing qualities and everybody is their own person. And how can they contribute that inside of the brand that you've already created? We talked about that in our last episode with Nicole. It's like I worked so hard building my brand, but it was all focused around me. And I didn't want that anymore. I didn't want a brand that was me, my name. I honestly don't care. You know, I want a brand that's strong and healthy. And I like utilizing my team members inside of that. And I think it creates this beautiful space and it pertains to more people. It makes you more relevant inside of the space. So I ask little questions like, what's your favorite Starbucks drink? And like, would you prefer the Kardashians over Beverly Hills Housewives? It's just like dumb stuff. You know, this stuff doesn't matter that much, but it kind of does because I know who you are.
Exactly.
So we had you come in, you did a trial, and I think I'm very clear about it. You know, like, we're not making any decisions today. This is a working interview. We don't actually have a timeline for when we're making decisions, but if we feel like you are a good fit for this after we do at least 3 or 4 days of working interviews, then we'll decide. And I think that that's one thing that she positively gave feedback inside of my process was like, wow, I'm really grateful in the way that you actually gave me a choice. You know?
I think I've been in situations before where I'm interviewing with somebody and it's kind of like a love bomb. Like you get hired and oh my gosh, you're on the job. And it's like, even before I get a chance to like get in my car for the day and like recap, was that a good fit for me? And I think if you're a candidate that has value to add to where you're going, you have options on the table. So you're kind of like, okay, well, I need to see if this is a good fit for me because I have a few other things lined up. And that's kind of like when I came here, I had time to think about it, time to get to know you guys and really decide if I was going to fit in here myself. And that made me more comfortable.
Yeah. The love bomb is such a red flag.
It's a red flag, but it happens. I think people
But you
get
were the
excited.
first person to like say it in that way where I was like, oh, like I've had moments in my life where I was hired somewhere and I felt that love bomb, like, oh yeah, I'm needed here. And like, they're making me feel so special. And like I'm contributing to the, I don't know, the salt mine, if you will, you know what I mean?
So
like
fast.
They need me. And so I feel like I have a purpose and and then they hire you so quickly. And it's almost like, how is it any different than a relationship?
It is weird when you think about it because you wanted to talk to your team about it, right? Like you guys, it wasn't just a Kiki decision, it's a Kashmir decision. And that makes so much sense when you're building a team. And I think a lot of people just jump right into it and they're not thinking like, how will this affect the people
around me
that are currently working for me?
Yeah.
And if I'm not getting their buy-in, then this is going to disrupt the good culture that I already have.
Right.
And that's not what you want to do.
But I think a lot of people don't really spend a lot of time on that good culture. And then when they hire new people, they don't realize that even just one new person here or there, even if they're a good person, they just might not be a good fit for that space. And they don't even think about that.
Right.
And then they look back 10 years down the line. And I've literally had mentors say this to me, like, Kiki, why can't I just find my people? Why can't I just find the people that are meant to work for me inside of my space in my salon? And all I wanted to say was, it's your own fault.
Yeah.
Like because you haven't taken the time to hire the type of people and intentionally. I think the word calculated sometimes comes off bad, but when you're hiring and firing, you almost have to be calculated because you have to be protective about the type of people that you offer in. So let me tell you some things that I loved about Elia. And if you're a new person inside of the salon or you're a new person inside of the hair industry, or you're like, I really want to take this new opportunity. If you're listening to this and you're like, I want to apply for Kashmir, all the things. Something that she did was she just did the systems and processes that I had set in place. So she filled out the application. She didn't ask me, oh my gosh, I'm having trouble, I don't know, like this or that. She didn't try and like reach out to me and be like, I don't understand, or, delay it or anything. It was just done when it was said it needed to be done. And then she filled out the video, which is like a video. It's a 1 minute video.
I think it's like a elevator speech about who I am and why I want to work for Kashmir.
Yeah. Very simple. It wasn't difficult to, understand, but I've had people that have been like, I want to work there. And then there's so much delay in the process of just getting them to submit the video, or they don't even submit it at all. And I just feel like if you can't even put in a form and you can't submit a 1 minute video, then you can't work here. Because that's just like the bare minimum. Like, we require so much of you inside of the space, and filling out a form in a 1 minute video is like the lowest and easiest thing to do. So I require my team members to get up and like put their face on their platforms and to speak. And the first time we ever did your hair, we bullied you into going live on Instagram. Do you remember that? Do you feel trauma from that?
No.
Okay, good.
No, I didn't feel trauma, but I think being able to troubleshoot in the application process is like a way to filter bad and good like
people
candidates, I guess.
And
you
it's
can
not
say.
that they're bad people. They're just like, they don't work for the fast-paced environment in which we require.
You definitely need to be able to think on your feet and make decisions in a crunch on your own, you know, educated decisions. And I think that was when I was filling out the application. That's why I filled out the silly questions, you know.
Yeah.
That's why I did the video, and I made sure, like, okay, well, I should dress in all black and make sure my hair is nice and, you know, touched up, and like I want to be the person that they want to hire. So,
but I feel like you were genuinely prepped and groomed in an assistant position before you applied for us, and I appreciated that. So somebody who's listening to this who has never had any assistance experience, but wants to work in their dream job or their dream salon or whatever it may be. Like, she wore a nice outfit. She wore all black, even in the video. And even when she came to the salon to do the working interview, she wore something just very neutral. You know, if her hair was pulled back, it was pulled back neatly, and everything was done well. And it's just those things that go very far, because there's not a lot that you can say or do in a working interview, because you're working. But your appearance shows up in like who you are. So that was square one of Elia. And that's, I think, the initial impression of me and why we were all very impressed with her, because I do feel like she's had, you know, she was a banging assistant, but I'm like, I don't want you to be an assistant or an intern forever. I want you to be a full-time team member. Ellie has an incredible story. And I think so many people can learn from her story, because she switched gears so far into life. Like, you look at 10 years down the line, she had a corporate job of 10 years. She worked for the big three. We'll talk about this a little bit, but this is something that I think so many people are afraid of, switching gears and changing and doing something different. And I hear this so often, and I want people to know that it's okay to just like let go and do these things. And it's hard, because I know I can say that. You'll probably say, Kiki, you know, your parents supported you throughout your whole journey of doing hair, being a hairstylist. They paid for my education inside of doing hair. They were so supportive of me being an artist. But Ellie didn't really have the same upbringing in the sense that being a hairdresser was like the best first step that you should do, right? I mean, it's not the worst thing, but she was really guided into a corporate mindset, because let's be honest, it's reliable. Right. And it is the safe option, and it's the smart option. And I did not have that typical upbringing, because neither of my parents are college graduates. Neither of my parents did that, and they're entrepreneurs. So let's not listen to my experience, because I don't feel like it, if you will, I don't feel like it really helps that many people. I think that your story helps a lot more people. So let's briefly talk about your experience prior to, because I just want people to understand like the extent of the work and everything that you did. And then how did you come to change your mind inside of what you were doing?
Yeah. So I graduated from the University of Arizona with a bachelor's in psych and business. And I quickly got picked up with a corporate company and started working my way up in the company. I did that for about 8 years. And I was, you know, they call it the golden handcuffs. I was really, I figured that was going to be my life at that point. You know, I was making really good money. I was really young, and I was really successful in my career. I started off with...
Did you have like health insurance and all the things?
401k by the time I was 21.
That's insane. What?
Yeah.
21?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So crazy.
I get it. That's like the golden handcuffs, you know,
I didn't even know what a 401k was. And
they were like, you have one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. So go on.
So, you know, at the time I worked for Target. I was like in operations. I worked my way. I was the youngest one in my position where I worked. And, I felt very like a lot of weight on my shoulders for the responsibility that I held just at 21.
Yeah, because you saw like people that were older than you,
like
doing
my parents'
your job.
age. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's who my colleagues were.
Did those people make you feel bad?
No.
For your age. You just felt that. Okay.
I just felt like, oh my God, I got to make this work.
Yeah.
And I was hungry, you know, I wanted to prove myself. Being the youngest one, I had employees. Like my first year in management, I had 100 employees, and most of them were older than me. So having to gain their buy-in and like show them that, I know I just walked in here and I got the job that you guys like.
And you need to listen to me.
Yeah. And you need to listen to me. Exactly.
Okay.
So, I knew I always wanted to do hair from like a really young age, but that's just not what my parents like. They guided me into school and working in business and having a 401k and, so that's what I did. And I got hungry in the process, of proving myself. I wanted to be the youngest person to reach this level. And I wanted to be making this much money by the time I was 25. And so I was hitting all of those milestones. But I was extremely miserable. Like I hated my job. I would wake up several times throughout the night with like anxiety and not wanting to go to work the next day. And so you said the big three. I worked for Target, which is an in-store, everybody knows what Target is, but I also worked for Home Depot for a short while. And then that was like my stepping stone to Amazon, which is obviously the biggest retailer in the world.
Yeah.
And I had huge responsibility and it was like crushing in my soul and my creativity. And I was so far gone from like who I was originally that I didn't even know who I was, anymore. So, I kept going to work and the money was good and that paycheck kept rolling through. But it was nagging at me. Like I had to make a change and I didn't know what it was going to be.
How did you find time in those moments where you were working so much to truly even know and find yourself and self-ground back to who you were? Did you have time or what did you do?
No, I felt like I was just living for other people and I was working my life away. I felt like all of my 20s, I was in a job that was making me miserable mentally and also physically. I felt like my body wasn't where I wanted it to be. And I just wasn't becoming the person that I wanted to be. But if I looked to my left, if I looked to my right, and if I looked above me in where I worked, that's the person I was becoming. And it was my boss, my peers, miserable people that were always venting about how much they hated it. And
so, but you stayed because you're told.
Yeah, I stayed because I was too afraid for so long, too afraid to like just follow what I wanted to do.
Right. Because it's like this money, the security, the health insurance, everything is like.
And my ego. Yeah. At that point, I'm like, I put so much time and effort into this. And I just remember for so long, out of all of my friends, I was like the succsuccessful one, the one that like had it figured out.
Had the steady job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had it figured out.
Oh yeah. And I didn't. I mean, I was transparent with my friends, like my job sucks, but they didn't see it that way, and so
like, you're fine. Like look at everything you have. Like you're great, and you and I are both Leos. So fun fact, Ellie and I were born one day apart. So we're both Leo women born in 91. Holla.
Yeah.
But we're so similar. And there's so much of me that I see in you too. And it's like that ego, that you're like, despite me being unhappy or whatever, like I told myself I was going to do this. I told myself I was going to make this promise to myself. And I would rather die than break that promise that I made with myself. I don't even care what anyone else does or what anyone else thinks of me. What if I fail? What if I fail myself, right? And so you constantly go back to that, and it's a vicious cycle because you almost make believe this whole story in your head that there's no way of getting out of it. And, you'll be happier if you just keep that fake promise to yourself, if that makes sense.
It was like, at one point I had to stop and ask myself, like, who am I doing this for?
Right. And who was that?
It was honestly my mom.
Oh.
I was like, it was like
this is before you were 30, right?
Yeah.
So you're like,
I was like, oh my gosh, like I am so terrified of like doing what I want to do because it's not going to make my parents happy.
Right.
And I didn't want to like be the failure or the oddball out. So I just like kept, and I specifically remember my mom telling me, you need to go to work, clock in and clock out. It doesn't matter if you like it there. Yeah. And that like stuck with me, all the way through my career.
Right.
So I had a big breaking point, and it was like a year before I kind of already knew I was going to leave, but I had a mentor that I was very close with, and at the time, it was like one of the hardest years in my career. I was very close with him, and he was just there for me through a lot of hard moments, and he helped guide me, and I never had the support that I had from him in any of my jobs or career at that point. So, the breaking point, I think, was he had not taken any time for himself. He was in his early 40s. He had 2 kids under the age of 7, both of them, and he had not taken a vacation the whole time that I knew him. And so I was kind of talking to him already about, hey, I don't know if this is for me. And he said, we'll take this promotion back in Arizona. So I was living here at the time. And he's like, give me a year there. And if you still don't like it, then you can go do whatever you want to do. And I joked and I said, I don't know. I might just go and bartend. Like, this is just not what I want to do.
Yeah.
So a year goes by, and I went through a really difficult, I launched several buildings. I did hiring, staffing, and operations for Amazon. So, I was overseeing the state of Arizona, some of California, and New Mexico in hiring for their facilities. And it was very stressful. And he was there every step of the way. And he finally plans a vacation for himself. I'm so excited for him. And when I think it was like a week. He was gone for a week during the holiday season, and it was time for our one-on-one. So it was the day that he was supposed to be back, and he didn't call into my one-on-one with him, and he was always on time. And if he for some reason wasn't going to be on time, he was going to message me and tell me hey, I'm running 5 minutes behind, and 5 minutes later he would call. So I got this gut feeling, Googled his name, and he had passed away of a heart attack in his hotel room in Belize. And it was the whole room was spinning.
Crazy.
It was crazy. It was 1 year exactly I had been there.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is he hadn't taken a break for the 2 years I knew him.
And he finally took a break.
And life is that short.
Yeah.
And that was this really big turning point for me, where I was like, that's it. Was
that's me.
That's
going to be me.
Yeah. And it sounds really dramatic, I think, if you're not in that life, but so many people are living a life that they're not proud of, or they're unhappy with, but they won't make the decision to get out of it.
And you tell this story you've told this story to me before, and it's still so sad every time you tell it, but you have this way of saying it, and the universe will teach you the same lesson over and over again until you finally learn that lesson.
Yeah.
And this is one of those examples.
Absolutely.
Where you were I just, you know.
It was gut wrenching. I was close with him, and people are like, how are you that close with your boss? But I mean, I was working 24/7. So that was my life. And I wasn't, I appreciated him as a mentor so much that it hurt me, because I knew he had a family, and I knew he was unhappy. So it was the big picture,
Right.
And nobody, he was,
it's not like he died doing what he loved, or he was, it's just that kind of thing where you're like, wow.
No. And the crazier part is that I found out after the fact that he was Ubering, and he was in a position way higher than me, making way more money than me.
Wow.
But he was Ubering on his time off because he was trying to provide a better life for his kids. So it's mind-blowing to me that, and his
perception
kids,
is everything.
Yeah. And his kids didn't get to see their dad because he was so busy giving his life away to this company that literally replaced him months after he left.
Yeah.
And I remember somebody telling me that came in and stepped in for him, saying, are you still upset about that? We're going to need you to get over that. And I just thought, oh my God, I can't get out of here fast enough. So I signed up for beauty school. I set a date with myself, and a week before the date, I get offered a promotion, which was going to be a huge chunk of money and a bunch of shares for the company. And I had been working so hard for that promotion, and I literally just broke out down in tears. And I said, I'm quitting, and like, I'm giving you my notice. This is my notice. And I couldn't sleep. I mean, it was so much money that I couldn't sleep for the 2-week notice that I had given. I think I actually gave a little bit more than that, but up until I had to leave, I was still questioning myself, and a little bit afterwards.
I think it's important for anyone listening to this to hear that, because as much as everyone who's listening to this hearing, wow, good for you. Like, there's literally applause in the background. Good job. You quit that job and now you're signing up for hair school and you're pursuing your dreams.
Yeah.
But in reality, you didn't feel that way. Like, you felt sick to your stomach.
I felt so
And oftentimes,
stupid.
when you choose like the right pathway for you, it's not always going to feel really good in the moment. You have to trust your higher power self. Or how did you like tap into that? Like, do you think it was just the dramatic scenes of what happened in your life that like led you to just push you over the edge and not want to do it? Or was there like a higher voice inside being like, no, Elia, you might feel sick about this, but you need to tap into this because this is the right path? How did you know?
You know what? I looked for signs. Like, I feel like I was digging around for reassurance constantly. I was reading books about making this big change in my life. I was listening to podcasts about people and women that had started a new career later in life. I was looking for anything to validate what I was doing.
Somebody tell me that I'm not crazy.
Somebody tell me I'm making the right move here. And it was, I literally...
Did you get it from all of that?
I think I did. I have like several books and podcasts that like help me stay firm in my decision. And I also had a wonderful boyfriend that was so supportive. So I felt that safety net that I hadn't had before.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, he believes in me. Somebody believes in me. I just need one person to believe.
Just one.
Yeah, just one person. Everybody thought I was crazy at work, but it was definitely
like, you didn't even believe in yourself.
No.
And so I need to attach, because like, I've done a lot of things in my life where I truly believed I can do this. I know I can do it. But I think before I felt those feelings of I know I can do it, I had to have somebody pave the way and show me and be like, this, you can do this because I did this. And if I did this, then you can do it. And there were people in your life or people that you were listening to or anything, and you're just grabbing with white knuckles.
Yeah. I'm like,
show me.
Reading a book. Yeah. Okay, I like that chapter. And every time I was feeling down or like uncertain, I go back and read that chapter. I have a note file of like points from different books that I had been reading up until I left that I would go back to when I was doubting myself to like, okay, read these again. This is where I want to be. This is the decision I need to make. And I quit my job making 6 figures, and I left a bunch of shares on the table. And I remember my boss saying, my new replacement boss saying, he fell back in his chair when I turned down the offer. And
like literally, he fell back in his chair.
I could hear like the gas.
It was like,
what? Because I was also so young.
Yeah.
And so
he's like, you're crazy.
You're like, what are you doing? You're ruining your life. Where are you going to go to school? And I didn't even want to tell people. So I just said, I'm going to go back to school. Nobody even knew.
Oh, there's no way in hell you could have told people you're going back to freaking hair school. Are you kidding me?
And I think people, like, I think I did tell like one person. I don't know. So I'm sure it got around. But everybody thought I was insane. And, I went back to school with a bunch of 18-year-olds fresh out of high school. And
how old were you?
I was 28, 28, going on 29. And
lived an entire life.
Yeah, literally.
And now you're living your, no offense, 18-year-olds listening to this, you're good. You're cool. We like you.
You're cool. I wish I was you.
But you've already lived this whole life. You feel like you've already seen so much. And now you essentially felt like you were starting over.
Yeah. And it was really hard on my ego.
Yeah.
I had to keep understanding that I almost couldn't let go of telling my story. For a long time, myself,
I lived these and this.
I did this, I did that, and now I'm here because of this. Because it validated that I wasn't like just coming off the streets and like, oh, I just finally got my life together here. I'm going to go to beauty school. Like I had this whole life that I put in a lot of work and I learned a lot. I learned a huge skill set that has truly benefited me today, you know?
Yeah.
Why I know so much about hiring and what to look for and all of these things, you know?
It's a slippery slope though when you tell your story, because it's a good thing to tell your story and it's a good thing to learn from it and share, right? And be inspiring, but it's another thing to live in the past and constantly bring up the past, because it's like the past is the past. We're done. Right. We're over this. And are we using the past for validation, or are we using the past for learning?
Exactly.
And we're using the past to inspire. And so it's cool that you finally realized that, like, you know what, I'm using this for validation right now. And I need to stop living in it, because I've literally started my life over, and that's okay. I'm choosing that. But I'm sure a lot of insecurities that come with that. Like I am starting over. Am I an idiot? Am I stupid? Am I not cut out for this? I don't know. And so what advice can you give to somebody who's considering that next step? Like, I don't know if I can do it. Like, how do I do it?
Not everybody has to understand where you're going. The only person that has to understand where you're going is you. And if you believe in yourself, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And I think it took me a while to let go of my story and feeling the need to tell people like, hey, this is who I am and here's my resume.
Yeah.
It took me a while because I had to find myself outside of my corporate identity, and it's been a lot of fun. And I've learned that to enjoy the journey. The journey is truly the best part. Yeah. I started bartending. I worked with a bunch of amazing, cool girls that were younger than me that I would have never met if I didn't take that like leap of faith. And I bartended while I went to cosmetology school. I met really smart 18-year-olds, smarter than me. You know, like I was
Don't you hate those ones?
Yeah,
I'm like, what the heck?
Wow, her foils look great. Wow, it's because her mom's a hairdresser. Like, no, it's seriously, I met so many cool people along the way, and timing is everything. And I think the biggest thing that stands out to me, if I was going to give somebody advice, is like, you're the only one that has to believe in you. Yeah. You can't look for other people to validate where you're going.
Right.
You're the only one that has to live your life at the end of the day.
You're literally, if you mess up, are the only person that has to deal with that mistake.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you have children, that's a different story. But when you're 30s and you're in your 30s, I think it's hard for people to understand this, but you still have so much life to live. Like being in your 30s is young. You have time to mess up. And even in your 40s and 50s, you're young. You have time to mess up. You have time to screw up. And the more you realize that you have control over your own life, the more you actually screw up. It's crazy. Like when you're caught in a corporate mindset, or you're just working for somebody else and it's this grind, and you don't really have any opportunity to design your own life. You don't really do a lot of messing up.
Right.
You do a lot of asking for permission or showing up and doing your thing and checking the box off and checking out and being able to sit down and watch Netflix. Mm-hmm. But when you work for yourself and you design your own life, a lot of it is failing. A lot of it is falling down, learning the lesson, getting back up and doing it stronger the next time. So it's this thing that I've almost had to train my mind to be okay with. And almost now it's kind of getting fun, but it's craving the fear of falling and then falling in love with that over and over again, and just realizing like, it's okay. Like I fail, whatever that means, that because I failed today, I may not fail tomorrow, and I'll be stronger the next time. And then I get excited to see where I'm going to be in a year from now or 2 years from now. So fast forward, you've had your license now for how many years? 2?
I've been in hair,
3.
so I started in 2019. So yeah, like about 3 years.
3 years. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you've kind of had like already a whole second life inside of doing hair and everything. And now you're here. I feel like we talk about your previous experience with assisting in like the salon, and everyone you've worked for, she's worked for some super successful hairstylists. And now that you're here and you've like learned, and from the time you started hair school to the time you graduated and now you're sitting here, like what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned? And what are some things that you can share with people that are hearing this, where you wish you could have shared it, or you wish you could have told your past self, like in the beginning of hair school, being like, okay, like don't do this, do that, or make sure you find this person, or I don't know, just things where people can save time, because that's all we're trying to do is we're trying to save time, right? It's like, how can I do this faster? How can I get to this opportunity quicker? How can I make more money? How can I have my own, how can I get my own business? How can I jump to the next level? What is some advice that you can give people?
I think, you have to take the time to do the nitty gritty in any type of business to understand what that is in order to be successful. So like, I had to tell myself, slow down. Like, you have the rest of your life to be behind the chair and taking your own clients. But what can you get from this experience that you're currently in, assisting? And how can you enjoy it? And I think I've had to ask myself that. Like, I've had really hard days. I used to lead large teams, and now I'm like having to, put my nose down and like get to work and prove myself all over in a new industry. And there's so many ways you can like choose to not enjoy that.
Yeah. More ways probably.
Yeah. But there's a lot of...
Because there comes a lot of entitlement inside of... I don't want to pin this new generation, because entitlement happens with anybody. So when you shift gears into a new industry, a lot of times you can come upon people with entitlement issues because they're like, I can prove myself. I am better than this. I don't want to sweep the floor. I don't want to do the dishes. I don't want to do these hard things. And not once have I ever seen Elia complain about taking the trash out or helping with the dishes or doing something that she wasn't told to do. She's literally put her head down and worked. And I think a lot has to be said for that, because it's just what you do. And even what I see in you is an owner mindset, because an owner doesn't care. They take the trash out. An owner has pride in what they do. And so, am I answering your question for you?
No, I think that's exactly right. I understand that there's a bigger picture. Like, so any position that you're in, you have to understand that there's a bigger picture. And if you accepted a position, I accepted a position here at Kashmir as an assistant, then I'm a key and valuable player to the team. And I have to like do the best at my job so that the entire team and the entire business can be successful. And I always try to look at it like, when I'm in their shoes, I'm going to want somebody to be delivering like this for me. Right.
Love that.
Hopefully.
And that's how you have to train the team members.
Yeah.
Is like, when you're in my position, you're going to want somebody that's like me, or like this, doing the job for you and helping you. So it's this continuous cycle that never ends, because we're always going to have new people in here, and we're always going to have turnover, and we're always going to have new everything. And so we have to train and frame that. And again, it's not going to work for everybody, because some people just want to skip the steps and they want to jump to the next level, right?
Yeah, and that's fine. And I think we live in a world where you can do that in many ways.
You have options. If you don't want to be the team player, like, you can go work for yourself. You don't have to do that kind of stuff, and that's fine. It's not for you.
Yeah, and I think just identifying what is for you, and if you're here, be the best version, for the team, for yourself that you can be. Be a sponge, get as much out of it as you can, because every little detail in your day-to-day is adding to a bigger, more valuable picture of your life. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I love that. I think that's a beautiful way to end the podcast, because it's just like not devaluing the little everydays. And I was listening to a podcast this morning about consistency and discipline. And they were saying in the podcast that it's not that you're more disciplined than somebody else. You're just putting things in your life, like scheduling things in your calendar to hold yourself accountable to do the things that may, from the outside, make you look like you're disciplined. But from the inside, it's not that you're more disciplined. You're just scheduling and using systems inside of your life to make it appear that way. And those little things that you do every day are going to be the things that make you the person that you want to be in 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road. It's the little things, the little consistencies that's going to grow you into this person that you aspire and desire to be. So that's it for this week.
That.
Yes, it was a great ending. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and YouTube, Kashmir and Kashmir Talk, Kashmir Extensions on YouTube, and Kashmir Extensions on Instagram. My name is Kiki Tobar, and this is Elia Gal, and we will see you next week. We do podcasts every other Thursday, and thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.